Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria and we are back in my living room. Today we are going to be doing my spring 5-star reads. So I'm going to be just going over all of the books that I gave 5 stars between the months of March and May. I don't have that many. I have had a lot of 4 and 4.5 stars, but I haven't had a lot of 5 stars. So I only have 5 5-star reads from those months. So for this video, I'm just gonna go through them, recommend them. These are obviously books that I loved because I gave them 5 stars, and I'm just going to share them with you. So these books are in like chronological order of the order that I read them. So I'm just going to start with the first one. The first one that I have is Distraction by Kelly Fox. This is the 4th book in the Mobsters and Billionaires series. Fortunately, I would actually recommend reading this series in order. I think that you get a larger picture of what's going on. But this is the 4th book. It is the last book, and it is about a RICO agent and a sociopathic enforcer for the mob. It is MM. All of Kelly Fox's books are MM, but Hopper is the name of the mobster, and he is the sociopathic half-brother of the head of the mafia. And he's had a really hard childhood. He is absolutely lovable, but he's had a horrible childhood, and it's really shaped him as a person. He also is a little bit sociopathic, like I said, and so he is a murderous yet lovable enforcer for the mafia, and he ends up falling first, and he falls in love with a RICO agent, FBI agent, who is tailing him. And so over the first 3 books, you do get a little tiny bit of information about the fact that this RICO agent is following Hopper, and the RICO agent's name is Liam. And so Liam is following Hopper, and Hopper is obsessed with him. He becomes obsessed with him, and he loves like showing up, and like the RICO Liam is supposed to be like in hiding, like not supposed to be visible to Hopper, but Hopper is just so good at this kind of thing that he's so easily spots Liam, and so he like shows up and gives him coffee and donuts, and it's really funny, and he loves the fact that Liam is tailing him, and he ends up just falling in love with him. And in this book, Liam, his grandfather who raised him, dies, and Liam inherits a shit ton of money, and he becomes a billionaire. And at this point, all of the previous characters sort of know him, they've met him, and so the other characters from the previous books are billionaires, and so they offer him like support and help, and he ends up falling in love with Hopper, like Hopper's in love with him. And it was such a cute story. I loved it. It was the one of the 4 books that gave me the most Necessary Evils vibes by Onley James, and it just made me so happy, and I loved Hopper, and I loved their relationship, and I loved how Liam really accepted Hopper for who he is, because he has a really abnormal outlook on life and on just in general. He is a very abnormal, he's a very abnormal person, just not, he doesn't fit in with everyone else, and I love that Liam doesn't feel like he needs to change him or anything like that. They just fully accept each other, and it was so sweet, and I loved it. The next one that I have is If Only You by Chloe Leese. This one is one that I absolutely knew that I was going to give 5 stars. I have given 5 stars to almost every single Chloe Leese book that I've ever read, and I was so excited for this one. This is Ziggy's book, and it does have autism representation. It has newly diagnosed celiac representation, and I thought that there was one other, but I don't remember. And I absolutely loved this book. I loved this book. So Ziggy ends up wanting to dirty up her good girl image. She has just always done what everyone told her to do. She's always had this like really pristine good girl image, and she really wants to like dirty that image up. She wants to be perceived as an adult, and everyone still kind of treats her like she's a child, and so she's like dirtying her image up will make people realize that she's a grown up. And so she enlists the help of her brother Ren's best friend, whose name I'm gonna look up because I can't remember. I think it's Sebastian. It is Sebastian. Okay, so Sebastian is Ren Bergman's best friend, and he's also his teammate, and so Sebastian is a bad boy. He has that bad boy image, and so he actually needs help cleaning up his image because he is at risk for penalties from the hockey team. They're like, you're more effort than you're worth kind of thing. And so Ziggy makes this plan where she's like, we will pretend to be friends in order for you to dirty up my image and for me to clean up your image. And they make this like pact of fake friendship to start like hanging out with each other in order to help each other out with their problem. And it was adorable. I loved this. It just made me feel so freaking joyful to read this book. I was just so happy. And the friendship ends up turning into a real friendship. So it's a fake friendship that turns into a real friendship that then turns into more. And it was just so good. I loved their fake friendship, and I loved their their fake friendship went into real friendship, and they started to like rely on each other and just like share their feelings with each other. Not like their romantic feelings, but like feelings about life and their feelings about what's going on in their life and how they're dealing with things that are hard on them. And it was just so good. It was a real friends to lovers, because before they ever do anything like more, they become really good friends. And I loved it. I loved it. And I loved the celiac representation. It is a very newly diagnosed celiac representation, so he actually gets diagnosed in the book, and I don't have celiac disease. My doctor thought I would, but I tested negative. I don't have it, but I do have almost all of the symptoms of celiac disease. I am gluten-free, and so I loved just the little parts of him describing his pain and his struggles with eating, because every single thing that he eats just causes him pain, and he's just like that confusion of what you're doing. And I've gone through that and I understood that, and so the relief to have an answer is something that I also understand. And so I just really enjoyed having that, something that I could relate to in it. But I loved Ziggy as a character. She was so cool, and I got that. I really understood also and related to her wanting to feel like an adult with her family, and just having your family have always treated you, you're like the younger one, and you always remind them of the fact that like hi guys, I'm an adult. I don't need to sit at the kids' table. I can contribute to the conversation. I am a grown-up. And I feel like a lot of people will be able to relate to that, and that feelings of wanting to show your family that you're not a little kid anymore, and that you do have important things to add to a conversation, and you do have some opinions that you formed yourself. And I was with her, and I understood her frustration and her determination to want to be perceived as an adult that she knew she was. Okay, the next one that I have is very different than If Only You, and that is Brutal Vows by J.T. Geisinger. So this is the last book in the Queens and Monsters series, and I loved book 3. I absolutely loved book 3. It was one of my top 22 of 2022 last year. Book 1 was just okay. Book 2 was pretty good. Book 3 I absolutely loved, and this one might be my favorite. I adored this book. This one is supposed to be an arranged marriage between Spider, who is one of the high-ranking members of the Irish Mafia, and he is supposed to be having an arranged marriage with the daughter of the head of the Italian Mafia. And the daughter of the Italian mafia is 18 years old. She's very young, and she does not want to get married at all. And she is horrified by the fact that she's going to have to marry this person. And she, her aunt, whose name is Reina, is really her protector. And Reina is like, don't worry, I'm gonna make it go away. I will talk to your dad, all this stuff. And Reina is somebody who has been in the mafia since she was a child. She was the daughter of the previous head of the Italian mafia, and she also had an arranged marriage, and it went horribly. She was horribly abused by her husband for many years until she murdered him. And so she is a badass. She is a badass. She has scars, but she is a badass. And I adored her. And she ends up being so much better suited for Spider than her niece is. And they have this amazing chemistry, this banter, this pure, you piss me off, but I love it kind of energy. And it was so, so, so good. And so this is a romance between Spider and Reina, the aunt of the person that he's supposed to get married to. And I loved this. I loved this. The audiobook was fantastic. Spider's accent was just gorgeous. And Reina is such a badass. I love her. I love her. And I love how much Spider was so excited that she was somebody who would fight back from him. He didn't want a wife that was just gonna be like his obedient slave. He wanted somebody who had a personality, who had that energy, who had that bite, because he was like, life's gonna be so much more interesting that way. And he loved having somebody who fought back from him, who had a mind of their own and was willing to speak their mind no matter the repercussions and no matter what their place was. And it was so good. So good. Absolutely loved it. Next one is Hail Mary by Candy Steiner. This is the last book in the Red Zone Rivals series. It's a college football romance. And this one is Leo and Mary. So Leo is a football player on his college football team. And he lives next door to Mary, and Mary doesn't like Leo. They have history that Leo doesn't remember, but Mary remembers, and Mary, her house gets flooded and has issues, and she ends up being homeless, and Leo's like, why don't you move into our football house because we have an empty room for the summer. And so Mary, with no other options, ends up moving in with Leo and with 2 or 3 other football players. And Mary doesn't go to college. She's actually a tattoo artist, which I thought was super, super cool. And she and Leo end up having a romance, but Leo, like I said, doesn't remember their history, doesn't realize who Mary is, and Mary hates Leo for their history, but he doesn't know why she hates him. And it's so interesting, and I really, really liked the reconciliation that they have of the past. I thought that it was so good, so entertaining. I really liked Leo as a hero, and this one might be my favorite in the series, which again is saying a lot because Blindside was on my top favorites of last year, and I absolutely loved that book. So this one was so freaking good. Then the last one, the last 5-star that I have from March to May, is Under the Stars by Laura Pavlov. I have talked about this book multiple times now, and I just read it last month. I freaking loved this book. This is book 2 in Laura Pavlov's Cottonwood Cove series. It is a grumpy sunshine CEO assistant workplace romance. The heroine ends up getting a job as the personal assistant to the hero, who is a CEO of this publishing house, and the heroine's just out of college and she gets a job as his personal assistant, and he is an absolute grump and she is a princess sparkly sunshine, but the kind of sunshine who's not afraid to like bite back, which I loved. She was so sassy, so smiley as she put him in his place, and I loved that. I loved that she was like badass but just like did it with a smile on her face, and so she just made me so happy. And this is a small town romance, and the small town and the heroine's family made this book so much better for me. Like, I loved everything that was happening, and then they added this group chat with her siblings. The heroine is so close with her siblings, and they have this hilarious family group chat where they're just like always constantly talking to each other, and it was so funny. I was literally laughing out loud at some points. It made me like so much more excited for the rest of the siblings books. You get so much insight into the other siblings, and they like really help her and like make fun of her, and like it just felt like a happy, joyful sibling relationship. And I love the way that the hero, whose name I can't remember, he just like didn't really soften his grumpiness, but he like was accepted for it, and I just it made me so happy, and I just loved it so much. And this was so good, so good, and just everything that I wanted in a grumpy sunshine CEO assistant romance. The heroine reads romance books herself, and she loves historical romance, and so she's working at this publishing house, and I loved that. And she just like gets so excited fangirling when she meets her favorite author, and it just was so good and made me so happy. I loved it. But that is the last 5-star that I had from March to May. I'm really hoping that in the summer that I'll have more 5 stars, because 5 is not that many. I definitely had more last year, but that is all that I have for this video. So I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that you will maybe be open to trying one of these books now. But that is going to be it. So please like it if you liked it, subscribe, let me know what your favorite 5-star that you've read in this spring was, and that's gonna be it. So I hope that you have the absolute best day.